So Bellator MMA has now signed Anthony "Rumble" Johnson. He will be joining their light heavyweight roster and I'm sure getting one fight before being eventually hurled towards a title shot in their promotion. Very big moment in the combat sports world right now on the MMA side of things, because I thought Rumble Johnson was coming back to the UFC, and over the past 6 months I've been trying to work out some kind of game plan for him to come back into the UFC. Who was he going to fight in the UFC light heavyweight division? Was he going to take on Rakic? Then Alexander Rakic got signed up against Thiago Santos. Then I thought, is he going to take on a Prochaska? Then Jiri Prochaska gets signed against Dominic Reyes. So it was a little bit of a weird situation, and I believe that a lot of things played a part in Anthony "Rumble" Johnson signing with Bellator rather than the UFC, because let's be real, in an ideal situation, if everything is evenly stacked up between what the promotions are offering you, you're choosing the UFC because UFC world champion, Bellator world champion, somewhere off screen, but still Bellator world champion, very esteemed, and I'm going to talk about that in this video because I could see a potential chance that with this move to Bellator from Rumble Johnson, Bellator might eventually have a really good argument to say that they are better than the UFC in the light heavyweight division. I'm going to get to that later in this video, but first of all I want to talk about this. Anthony "Rumble" Johnson basically got outbid. In my opinion, I think Bellator really wanted Anthony "Rumble" Johnson, because something else they did recently was turn down Yoel Romero. Why would you turn down Yoel Romero but get Anthony "Rumble" Johnson? I know exactly why they would turn down Yoel Romero and not Anthony "Rumble" Johnson. Yoel Romero has lost to all of the top guys in the middleweight division. Whether you think that he lost those fights or not, I think he had a draw against Robert Whittaker. The Paulo Costa fight is a little bit meh. Some people think the Adesanya fight is a little bit meh as well. There's a lot of controversy in all of those wins and losses, but still, Yoel Romero, on record, has lost to all of the top middleweights. If Bellator signs him, he is seen as the guy who is lesser than the top UFC middleweights. And if Bellator believes that Yoel Romero is going to come along and just beat Gegard Mousasi, now all of a sudden, Bellator once again is seen as the waste department of the UFC, where the champions just get destroyed by the UFC rejects, basically, over the past few years. I mean, Rory McDonald did it at welterweight. We've seen this time and time again. Even Gegard Mousasi as well. Not really a UFC reject in the same way, because he was coming off some wins, let's not forget. But he eventually went on and got the belt with relative ease and even beat Rory McDonald to defend it as well. But still, Yoel Romero has lost to all of the top guys in the UFC. Bellator has no use for him. Anthony "Rumble" Johnson, on the other hand, and here's where the big enchilada comes out. Anthony "Rumble" Johnson has beat Glover Teixeira, who is soon to be fighting for the light heavyweight belt next. He might be fighting for it next if they don't make this Adesanya versus Blachowicz bout. And Anthony "Rumble" Johnson has beaten Alexander Gustafsson, who beat Jan Blachowicz. So if Bellator signs Anthony "Rumble" Johnson, and I'm assuming this is why they've signed him, it will look really good if Rumble goes on and even loses to their guys, because on record, Rumble was beaten, whether via MMA math or not, or directly like he did with Teixeira, the number 1 and the champion in the division of the UFC. So Bellator knows it looks really good. If Rumble even goes on and gets the belt, they could have an argument then. And if he loses in severe fashion to, say, Vadim Nemkov, which he definitely could do because he's been off for a very long time, I would not be surprised if Nemkov completely just gasses him out and TKOs him in the 2nd or 3rd round. But still, very dangerous times for the UFC. Bellator, if Nemkov beats Rumble, have a very strong argument to say that they are a better light heavyweight division in the UFC, and that's exactly why Scott Coker has signed him. Does it directly mean that? Because we know that Anthony "Rumble" Johnson is not really in his prime right now. He's been off for a while weightlifting. Another thing that could be said as to why he is not signing back with the UFC is because if other people have pulsing situations with roids, I am in no doubt that Anthony "Rumble" Johnson took steroids while he was out of the UFC. There is no way he can balloon up to that size so quickly without a little bit of substance. Now, I'm not talking about inject a big needle into his veins or anything like that, but there's something that Rumble's done, whether it be a little bit of this powder in his protein shake or a little bit of that. There's something going on there when Rumble Johnson immediately just inflated to twice the size as soon as he left the UFC. Maybe that's another reason why he's signing back with Bellator, but I believe that Bellator is paying him a lot of money because it looks really good if he does well in their division. Also, Yoel Romero not getting signed really does annoy me, and I do want to emphasize that as well because it's a very sad moment, I must say. But positive thinking. I think Yoel Romero is probably going to end up signing with BKFC. And listen, if you're Yoel Romero, maybe one of these niche organizations is better for you than one of these bigger, already established 1FCs or Bellators. Because when you join that roster, you're one of the guys. When you join a Bare Knuckle FC or maybe even a weird YouTube boxing situation, who knows what Yoel Romero is going to do next, you become a lot more valuable to the smaller production company that's buying you. And I think he could make a lot more money doing that. Plus, he's older. Like, I wouldn't even mind seeing Yoel Romero in Submission Underground or something along those lines, where he could take no damage, no CTE, make a lot of money in a Quintet Ultra. Like, people will watch Yoel Romero grapple. You're telling me Yoel Romero strictly goes out there to grapple someone, you're not going to tune in? Like, it's a very entertaining spectacle to see what he can do in the grappling department. Regardless of how successful he was with his grappling in the UFC, you've seen his grappling skill. He's just a freak of nature, does some really cool stuff. I'd tune in to watch him grapple, and he wouldn't take any damage whatsoever. However, Rumble Johnson is now going to Bellator. I think he needs to sign his first fight against Phil Davis. I think that's a great matchup to make. I'm assuming that Corey Anderson versus Vadim Nemkov is going to get announced within the next few months. I don't really understand how Melvin Manhoef is a title elimination bout at Bellator. So even though their champion might look really good by the end of this whole thing, UFC's got the roster. You know what I'm saying? Because in no way is Melvin Manhoef a title elimination bout. I have no idea how that works in Bellator. They have some good champions, I'll give it to him, but down those rosters gets a little bit tricky in some moments, especially in those upper weight classes, but still, I could definitely see them making Corey Anderson versus Vadim Nemkov on a card with a co-main event of Rumble Johnson versus, say, Phil Davis, Lyoto Machida. I only really said Phil Davis because Rumble Johnson has beaten Phil Davis before in his career, so that's a really big feather in his cap. If he wants to sign another fight with Phil Davis, I'm sure it will add some confidence that he beat Phil Davis all the way back in, let me check when it was on his resume actually, Jesus Christ, how long ago was it? Right, it was 2014, Jones versus Teixeira, more relevance to Teixeira, but still, Phil Davis versus Rumble Johnson. Rumble Johnson gets the job done by unanimous decision. He can bring that into a rematch. We could sell that as the co-main event or something, and this is what I want Bellator to start doing, because I'm sick of it. I really am sick of this that Bellator does. They, like, cuck themselves. They're actual cucks in the MMA organization right now. I think they should be trying to compete with some of these UFC cards, because with all of the dropouts with the Corona syndrome, whatever's going on around the world right now, the synchronized sneezing international, I think it's a really good time to start competing with the UFC's cards, because listen, they lose a couple of main events and they drop us a Smith versus Clark card. You know, you can compete with that with some big names and stacking a big pay-per-view, but it just feels like Bellator is so used to just saying, oh no, you guys have the Saturday night, we'll have Friday, and just sit here in the corner and watch you guys have a lot of money and stuff like that. It just feels like, man up for a second here. Try and compete with the UFC with a stacked card, because if they time it with a shit fight night, like, we have I versus Calvillo as the headliner of a fight night now and again. If you stack a Bellator card with, like, Douglas Lima on there, Musasi on there, like Vadim Nemkov versus Anderson, and Rumble Johnson versus someone over there, Phil Davis, Lyoto Machida, you name it, Aaron Pico on the card, Sergio Pettis on the card, James Gallagher headlining the prelims, you can compete with the UFC, and I think that's what Bellator needs to start thinking of doing next. Although I'm really looking forward to Anthony Johnson's move. It does pain me in my heart that we will not see him in our own light heavyweight division, but Rumble Johnson is going to make a lot of money over at Bellator, because those heavyweight bouts are interesting as well. The Ryan Bader bout is even interesting, and I'd look forward to seeing that one as well. Another rematch that he could have after he finished him in the first round. He beat Ryan Bader in the first round. Like, Rumble must be thinking to himself, right, I'm going to go whoop up on these guys that I've already beaten, because they're all the top of these divisions. I like his chances in Bellator, but I think Vadim Nemkov is going to beat Corey Anderson and Anthony Rumble Johnson. I think Nemkov should sign with the UFC. And I think that's what the UFC should be going for here. They're dropping guys like Yoel Romero, which again, I understand, because listen, Yoel Romero's lost to the big guy in the division of middleweight right now in Israel Adesanya. And Rumble Johnson has no history with John Jones, and his history with Jan Blachowicz is the fact that he beat the guy that beat Jan Blachowicz. So, different situation. Horrible to lose all of these fighters, but I think we need to start adding some of the other fighters and just saying, hey, Vadim Nemkov, how much are Bellator paying you? Do you want to be seen as the greatest of all time? And just teasing Nemkov a little bit, because I feel like we could make some good momentum out of him in the UFC. But then again, I know that UFC doesn't like to sign Bellator guys, because if the Bellator guy... But then again, Michael Chandler. So I don't know what the UFC's idea is when it comes to signing Bellator opponents, because it seems that sometimes they're worried about, maybe they know that Chandler's going to lose, or they have a really good feeling and they hazard in their own bets against Chandler doing well in the UFC at the top level, which is why they're throwing him in so early. But they maybe secretly know that Nemkov could cause some damage against those guys at the top of their division, because I'll tell you this, the light heavyweight division right now, whatever you say about legendary Polish power, Glover Teixeira, people that age should not be in charge of a division in the UFC in 2020. And I know they're very good, but I think the age of the division is kind of very relevant to how skilled it is. In oftentimes, you know, like the bantamweight division is one of the best divisions in the UFC, and there's a lot of young guys at the top right now. Aljamain Sterling in his prime, Corey Sandhagen coming up close to his prime. No, Piotr Jan, young guy coming up as well. You got other guys in the division. Cody Garbrandt still not past his prime. Marlon Moraes relatively young. Like, there's not a lot of these 37, 38-year-olds around, and even Dominic Cruz is taking on Casey Kenny, but still, I'm looking forward to this. We'll see how it unfolds, because there's a lot of guys at Bellator he could take on. There really is, so I'm looking forward to it. Rumble Johnson, man. Really sucks that I'm not going to get to see him in the UFC, but I'll accept it to see what goes on at Bellator. Maybe he'll make a little bit of an embarrassment of himself, because I don't know how much he's been training after this time off. But if he goes out there and beats Phil Davis, the winner of Corey Anderson versus... If Glover Teixeira becomes champion, we're fucked. I just want to mention that before the end of the video. I like Glover Teixeira. I'm all in on this Brazilian second prime that seems to be coming out of Teixeira right now. The first instance, like the second prime Teixeira. If he wins the championship, we're fucked. Corey Anderson beat Teixeira at Bellator in the light heavy. I'm speaking like I'm the UFC, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the UFC of all the MMA promotions. I think it's the best in the world. But the image of it is damaged if Teixeira wins the belt some fucking how. Rumble's beat him. Anderson's beat him. Nemkov could beat both of them and look even a step above our champion and another level above after that. It's interesting, you know. UFC needs to get rid of those guys at the top. Like, we need a Rakic or a Prochaska or a Reyes to take that belt real soon, or we're going to be in some problems. But I like Jan Blachowicz, whatever. I think they should do Blachowicz versus Teixeira next, though. Fuck Adesanya. Fight Whitaker. We need to sort out the middleweight division and the light heavyweight division. Then we can do some kind of super fight. Adesanya, you'd beat Whitaker anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Adesanya should have a bit more confidence that he's kind of the best guy in the division right now, and he probably beat guys. So just make some money. Don't hold out for a bit and take time off. Get back in there, keep the momentum, and then go up to light heavyweight afterwards. We got some stuff to sort out. Thank you for watching the video. Click that button up there. Like and subscribe. I'll see you later on the live stream that I do daily. I'm going to start saying it in the videos now, because YouTube keeps capping me at 170 viewers. And I've noticed this, okay? I've noticed this, YouTube administrators. I go live every day for an MMA Q&A. I answer all of the questions. I don't answer all of the questions in the chat. I answer some of the questions in the chat that are not completely terrible and autistic, borderline. Check it out. Tune in later on. Yeah, pay attention and shit, you know. Goodbye. Yeah.